In this lecture, I'm going to talk about optimistic and pessimistic updates. Now, if you're not a native English speaker, you may not know the meaning of these words. Optimistic means hopeful, whereas pessimistic means hopeless or negative. What do I mean by this? Well, look at how we have implemented the create post method. So, when I add a new post here and press enter, this post is not placed in the list until we get a successful response from the server. And as you will see now, this is going to take about half a second. So there's going to be a little bit of delay from the moment I press enter until this new post appears in the list. Let's see. Did you see the delay? One more time. Okay, there was a tiny delay, like about half a second. This is what we call pessimistic update. We are hopeless. We are negative. We're assuming that the call to the server will probably fail, and we will only add this item to the list if we get a successful response from the server. In contrast, we have optimistic update. So instead of waiting to get the result from the server, we update the user interface immediately. We assume that most of the time, the call to the server is going to succeed. Now, if that fails for any reasons, then we're going to roll back our changes. A lot of modern applications these days use the optimistic update approach because that makes the application appear faster and smoother. So let's see how we can implement optimistic update here. Back to our posts component, in the create post method, you can see that we are updating our posts array upon receiving a successful response from the server. So I'm going to get this line, cut it, and move it right here. So as soon as we create this post object, then we immediately update the posts array. Next, we clear our input field, and then we will call the server. Now, if the server responds with a successful message, then we'll set the ID of this new post. Okay? Now, otherwise, if something goes wrong, I want to roll back the changes. So I want to remove this new post from the top of our array. So we would write something like this. This.posts.splice. We're going to go to position 0 and delete one item. That's it. Also, in terms of code formatting, note the space between this line, which is about updating the user interface, and the next line, that is line 37, which is all about error handling. So the lines that are highly related should be close together, and they should be separate from other lines. As another example, look, these two lines are highly related. We create this post object and then we immediately use it. We place it inside this posts array. But these two lines are separate from clearing the input field. That's why we have a line break here that makes my code more readable. Okay, now let's test this. So back in the browser, this time, when I add a post, you will see it appearing in the list immediately. So Mosh, enter, there you go. Book, see, it's a little bit faster than what we had before. Now let's simulate a scenario where the call to the server fails. So I'm going to open up data service. Here in the create method, instead of calling the server, I want to temporarily return an observable that has an error. How do we do that? You already know that. So we return observable.throw and add an error object here. Now, as I told you before, throw is a factory method that we use to create a new observable object. And this will return an observable that includes an error. Now, in this case, that error is an app error object. Now, let's comment out these few lines. Now, let's go back to the browser. I'm going to add a new item. So we got this error, but Mosh didn't appear in the list. In fact, it did appear, but because the rollback happened so fast, you didn't even see it. So now here's an exercise for you. I want you to pause the video now and change the implementation of the delete button and use optimistic update. Now here's my solution. So back in post component, in the delete post method, I'm going to delete this post straight away. So I'm going to get these 2 lines, put them here, then call the server. Now here we don't care about the successful message that we get from the server. So instead of passing an empty arrow function, we can pass null. However, if something goes wrong, we want to roll back the changes. So I want to put the post back where it used to be. Once again, we use the splice method. So this, that posts, that splice. We want to go to this index. We are not going to delete any items. Instead, we want to add a new item, and that is this post object. So this is how we can roll back the changes. Now let's test the changes. So back here, delete. You can see it got deleted faster. Much better. Now let's simulate a fail scenario. So back in our data service, I'm going to temporarily return an observable with an arrow. New app error. And then comment out these few lines. Okay, back in the browser, delete. We got this alert, and the item is still in the list. Beautiful.